Wonder about the future and how you'll be working and learning? Welcome to You in 2042, the future of work, with your host, Danielle Wallace.
Hello and welcome to You in 2042, the future of work. Joining me today is Jeff Weaver.
My name is Jeff Weaver. I'm the Director of Training and Organizational Development for J.J. Taylor Companies. We're one of the largest beer distributors in the U.S., and we're now actually selling heavy equipment as well with the new division that we've taken on. So I've got a couple of different hats I'm wearing. I've been in L&D for over 25 years, and I have done everything from classroom leadership development and training to hands-on frontline tactical, position-based training and pretty much anything in between. So very excited to be here, and thanks for having me, and looking forward to talking about things in the future.
It can be fun to imagine what you think the next 2 decades may bring us in terms of learning and development. What do you think that might be?
Yeah, this will be fun. Somebody will listen to this 10 years from now and go, what a doofus. He thought all that stuff was going to happen. Because predicting the future is understandably difficult, right? But I think there are certain trends that if you look at and you factor in a little bit of human nature, there's definitely some stuff that, at least for me, feels inevitable. I think automation is going to continue to refocus our energy away from things like content creation and more towards problem identification, ROI, and things like that. I think it's going to, in the short term, it's going to be like Excel was for bookkeepers. It'll make their jobs easier, but it's not going to replace anything. So knowing that we can automate certain things like content filler and slide design and things like that, the challenge for us is going to be then we have to refocus that time and energy into the stuff that's more pressing, which is figuring out the bigger problems and figuring out how to measure success of our training and learning programs, because that continues to be a hot topic forever, I think, in this field is how do we know what we're doing is working? So I think that's going to be a big one. Another one that I think is definitely going to shift in the next 20 years is that as content becomes more disposable, and we see that in social media and we see that in other places, as AI takes over content creation, that content will become increasingly disposable in many ways because it can always create something new. That's going to create a gap between disposable, run-of-the-mill content and what I think is going to become very important, bespoke, well-designed, timeless, classic, high-end. As anything becomes more common, the best versions of it become more rare and therefore more valuable. So I think there is going to become a split between the run-of-the-mill AI-created content that a lot of organizations churn out and those of us in the field who really take the time to put a lot of thoughtfulness and effort into what we create. That's going to become more valuable than ever. So there is going to be reason to continue to sharpen and hone those skills, I think, just because it's going to be different. It's going to become so noticeably different when someone really takes the time to create something special versus just throw a prompt into a chat bot and gets back what they get back, which I'm not knocking either side of it. But if you're asking me 20 years from now what I think 20 years from now, it's going to be a kind of a split between those two things. I mean, attention spans are going to keep getting shorter, right? I mean, the TikTok effect is not going away. The younger the generation you're looking at, the more they expect bite-sized, ready-to-go content. And I think persuasion, as opposed to just knowledge transfer, is going to continually be more important in this field. That really the difference is going to become who can affect behavior change persuasively as opposed to who can just convey a message or get knowledge across in a effective or complete way.
Then that's really interesting because that persuasion and actually achieving the performance outcomes versus just transferring knowledge, that ties into so many of the themes you've already spoken to. We can automate the knowledge transfer. We can create disposable content that maybe is about knowledge transfer. And then within this world of lowering attention spans as well, we have more of an imperative, more of a need to persuade. How do you think that this role of persuading people can be further amplified in this future need?
For me, persuasion's become the central focus of what I'm studying and learning right now. And it's because training's a tool in the kit, right? We often talk about this as the learning field or the training field or things like that, but it's a tool in the kit. At the end of the day, nobody gets trained because they quote need training, with the small exception of compliance, right? When the government mandates that you must have gone through this training, that's training for training's sake. But outside of that, no business, no company trains people to be able to say they trained people. They train people because they want a change in behavior. They train people because they want their team to act differently or behave differently, whether that's performance on the job or performance as a leader, whatever the case may be. Change for human beings requires persuasion. We don't just change because we're told. We don't just change because we necessarily have to. There has to be a catalyst for change. There always has to be something that sparks that. It's basic Newtonian physics, right? An object in motion versus an object at rest. When people are in their lane and on their path or are not yet doing something, you need force to change their direction or to catalyst that beginning. Persuasion can be that force. It's that force that can knock somebody off their path and into a new one. It's that force that can start from nothing and get people moving. So to me, persuasion is at the heart of this, because the knowledge transfer piece is going to become just increasing. If it's not already obsolete, it's becoming increasingly obsolete so fast. I mean, everybody who works for me has a device in their pocket that can give them any answer they want. And it's only going to get better at giving them the answers over time, right? We used to teach an entire course. I'll give you a good example, Danielle. We used to teach an entire 3-day course on how to do basic tap repair for a beer tap handle and draft system. That was something that we put all of our field sales reps who worked in bars through so that they could troubleshoot basic issues. I have stopped running that course. You know why? Because they all have YouTube. It's in their pocket. And any problem they have with a tap, they're just a couple of Google answers away from finding 5 or 6 people who can show them in a 2-minute video, here's how to solve that draft issue. My job as a trainer used to be to make sure we had training available for people to run the taps. Now my job as a leader in learning is to say, here's how you identify a reputable, credible source, and here's how you correctly search terms and understand what you're looking for to get the answer you need. But the idea in that one little microcosm, the idea of just in case training, learn how to do this thing just in case you run across it, it's gone. The magic screen in their pocket takes care of that part of it. I have to now change my training style to focus on how do you find reliable, good information, and how do you make sure you ask the right questions to get the right answers. So from a technical training perspective, that's going to continue to be the change. And I think from a leadership training perspective, which is where I spend a lot of my time, it's about persuasion. It's about convincing them that they need to change. It's about convincing them to put in the work and not get complacent because every answer is at their fingertips. And it's about convincing them that the way we want things done, not just what they do, but how they do it, is important.
That persuasion then becomes this timeless need. But what's interesting is it is truly amplified because there is so much more instant answers. There's no more need for just-in-time training, just-in-case training, as you mentioned. You see a growing need for skill development, so we as a field can actually help with this persuasion, which is not maybe something we currently have.
Absolutely. I think skill development continues to be probably, again, more important than ever, because knowledge transfer is becoming the lesser important imperative for us. We can transfer knowledge on demand when we need to. But the skill development is everything. And that takes more time. And oftentimes skills got overlooked because they did take more time and we had to carve that time out for knowledge transfer. But freeing ourselves up from that, let's put that back into things like teaching our leaders how to be persuasive, teaching our employees how to critically think and solve problems and ask good questions and discern good information from bad information, because those skills are certainly going to continue to be more important than ever. It's hard to get up in front of the room and be seen as the expert anymore to a population and a generations that increasingly feel like they can find the answer to anything they want to know. But if you can get up in front and convince them to take action, convince them to do what they need to do through persuasive tactics as opposed to just learning transfer tactics, then that's a valuable skill set that every company is going to continue to need. Because one thing that I think will be a lagging piece for AI and other stuff is its ability to create connection. with an audience, right? I mean, it can be frighteningly persuasive in its own right. Um, but as automation takes over, as artificial intelligence comes to the forefront, that again makes human connection a rarity, and rarity is value. So the people who are great at connecting with people are going to continue to become more valuable for that. And our ability in L&D to affect that through skills development or through our own skills is just going to be more valuable over time in that realm.
It really highlights the need for continuing to foster this human connection that we as learning and development practitioners have, as well as fostering that environment of motivation when you speak to different leaders, not just telling people you have to learn this, but creating that motivation so people want to learn, they want to change. Change management pieces also come into play. This whole new paradigm, this whole new world, Jeff, brings so many more opportunities to practice and do these very human skills that you're speaking about while allowing automation to take these more mundane tasks. With this, how do you think learning and development as an industry, what do you think we can do to help the workforce then be more future ready?
So I think the first and foremost thing that L&D practitioners have to remember is that um, when it comes to persuasion and when it comes to leadership, leaders go first, right? Nobody wants to buy in on L&D if the person running L&D isn't bought in on L&D. And by that I mean I think it's real easy sometimes for those of us who are immersed in this, like anybody who's immersed in their job, to forget why we got into it or that we still love it, or to take the time to continue to do it. But I think it's critically important that for us to be credible in our organizations and as leaders in this space, forget the field, just in this realm, we have to have the most voracious appetites for learning. We have to be the ones that are reading the most, learning the most. We're delivering it as a check the box. They're going to receive it as a check the box. So I am very passionate about making sure that I am the best read person on these topics in my company, right? There's so many books that I talk to them about, and then there are so many more books that they've never even heard me talk about because I didn't think they made it through my filter to them. I'm constantly trying to put that effort in. I think if you've lost that step, it's time to get it back because it's going to be more important than ever. Authenticity, credibility. Again, as I look at these younger generations, they are more attuned to those words and those concepts than ever before. You can't be a credible L&D leader if you're not a lifelong learner and an active, voracious learner. So step one is you got to walk the talk. You got to be the person up there who models the behavior you want to impart on them more than anybody else. The second thing you can do is take that and become a mini influencer, if you will, whether you're in an organization or in your own space. The culture is driven by influencer culture right now. Well, what are influencers? They're passionate people who have a hobby or a thing that they love, and they're sharing it with everybody else and making them passionate about it. And I think one of the most fascinating things about influencer culture is how we've all come to love things that we didn't even think were things. Like, I don't know about you, Danielle. I will never not stop now to watch a farrier put a horseshoe on a horse. Like, I got a few of those videos in my timeline, and it's the most soothing, interesting thing to sit there and watch them, clean this hoof and put a new horseshoe on, and you're like, I had no idea that all this was involved with this. And I'm watching a 3-minute video on this. I'll watch somebody power wash their driveway, right? Like there's these guys that's all they do. They go out, they power wash people's driveways or roofs, and they're making a couple $100 doing that. They're probably making a couple thousand on the views because I'm seeing these guys, they've got 200,000 views on a video of them power washing. Why? Why do I want to sit there and watch somebody power wash? Why do I want to sit there and watch somebody put on a horseshoe? They love what they're doing, and they're taking the time to share that love. That's what an influencer is. As L&D professionals, we need to adopt that mindset. The mindset that is resonating with younger generations is, I have this thing that I'm passionate about. I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to share with you that I'm doing it. And so I've been trying to adapt in our organization things like that's why we do the podcasting. That's why we do book club and things like this. Is it's all about how do we take those of us who are passionate about bettering ourselves as leaders and share that passion with these folks to show them what it is there is to love about this and have some of them fall in love with it along the way. So I think as leaders, that's my answer is be the type of learner that you wish you had 1,000 of, and then model that, make that visible to everybody else. Don't just do the research in your office. Don't just do the research on night and weekends. Make the research and the time that you spend on this visible, and create that influencer type persona for yourself within your organization that says to everybody else, here's somebody that everybody loves and respects who also happens to obviously be very into this, and then highlight others that feel the same way. That's another big piece of what I think we're focused on right now is I'm always looking for who are the leaders in my organization who I think lead best in this space, and I want to highlight them in front of everybody else. Because again, that recognition, that influencer type culture is we want to hold up the role models that are in this space.
I love that because it all contributes toward a learning culture and this overall growth mindset that so many organizations are striving for. And it allows a very easy way that people can see others, emulate them, emulate yourself in learning and development. And altogether, that helps drive to the overall goal that you were speaking about in essence, driving performance outcomes, not just being an order taker, but actually being one that is truly creating performance improvements in the organization. I think these are great insights and very practical things that many of our listeners can do now, even like podcasts and the book clubs, and being this own beacon of learning yourself within the learning and development function.
The thing that I always try to instill in my team is success is when opportunity meets preparation, but you can only control the latter, right? You can't necessarily control when you're going to have the opportunities, but you can always be prepared. So again, going back to the model, the behavior you want, I think as L&D professionals, it's our job to be prepared for whatever we think we see out there on the horizon. It's easy to want to chase a bunch of trends. I tend not to. We sort of actively reject the trend chasing, but I'm aware of them all and I'm watching them all. And the minute there's a demand for one, I want to be able to step in and go, well, yeah, we have thought about this and we have an idea and let's go there. The organization, the culture, the company, the group that you're responsible for, whatever it is, they're going to tell you what they want in one way, shape, or form. Your job as an L&D professional is to meet them in that space with a prepared plan that can then lead to success. So if there's one big piece of advice I think that has helped me the most in my career, it's be aware of everything, think about all of it, have a plan or at least an idea, and then sit back a little bit and tap into your organization and find out what they want and deliver that. Don't try to push them into places they don't want to go. Don't try to take them to places they're not ready for. Just pace and lead at the same time. It's about staying with the organization. You can't be too far out ahead, and you definitely don't want to be lagging behind. So just one eye on everything that's available, and then one eye on what's happening in front of you today. And when those two things intersect, that's where success happens.
Jeff, that's great words of wisdom to help emulate this future culture that's needed, as well as to help drive the organizations to persuade them to help adapt to the changing times. Jeff, where can people find more information about you?
The internal training and development programs we run all fall under what we call Brew University. And we do run an Instagram account that kind of details our shenanigans at any given day. So on Instagram at brew_university.
Amazing. Can't wait to check that out. Thank you so much for your fantastic insights. This has been a true pleasure.
Oh, well, Danielle, thank you so much for having me. This has been super fun. I love getting to talk about this stuff. I think it's so many of us in this field work in very small teams or by ourselves. Anytime we can create a community of our peers is a great opportunity. And I love that podcasts like yours are out there doing exactly that for people. So thank you for the opportunity. It's been super fun.
Thank you for being a part of the future. Subscribe now to stay current.